It's your boy Amreezy, and I'm back with another Road to Sorare Boss, where we're tracking my journey on Sorare and we're having fun. We're loving Sorare. We're a couple of months in now. It's getting exciting. Sorare is changing its gameplay. I've been adapting. I'll show you later in this video the cards I've been buying, some of the cards I've been selling. Not many I've been selling, to be honest, but mainly trading them to get new cards. I'm going to talk a little bit about my tactics going forward. So basically, with the change of gameplay with Sorare, I'm not, I could easily abandon everything and kind of go, I just want to target Premier League in season only, or just Premier League and the Classic, and sell all my other cards because I don't know how the other leagues are going to be. However, I'm not going to do that. Before the roadmap Sorare recently introduced, I did say I want to invest in the Mexican League. I want to buy Mexican cards because I love Mexican football. I love following the Mexican game. I love following my Mexican team, Santos Laguna, and I want Mexican cards. So I'm still going to do that. I've been persisting with that. And I've been getting a few bargains recently from Mexico. And basically, I'm going to play. So when the leagues are split into the three modes, I kind of want a team with old cards in each one. So theoretically, I can play in every league. And the Mexican League is no exception. There's no reason why I can't do well in that league with Mexican old cards and just target like the best Mexican players that week. And if I have enough of a good gallery from Mexico, I can pick the 5 best ones that week. And they could easily give the likes of Celtic, the likes of the other big teams that will be in that group with them in the contenders. There's no reason why they can't do well. The other thing I want to talk about is Rivals. I've recently changed my Sorare Rivals technique, and that kind of goes hand in hand with buying lots of new Mexican cards, because I can now use some of those cards in Mexican rival games. And I've noticed, I was playing European games, leagues that I know, biggish teams, and kind of seeing the formation on the day, picking some players and challenging, entering the arena. I've not been doing that great. I've won, I think, 3 rewards in Sorare Rivals, and they've not been a card yet. It's only ever been tickets. The last reward I won a few days ago was just 1 ticket, the worst reward. It's horrible, but it's fun, Rivals. But last night, I did play a Sorare Rivals game in the Mexican League, Atlas v Pumas. Atlas v Pumas. And I had a player from, I had a few cards from actually both of those teams, but I ended up picking 1 defender and 1 midfielder from each team. And I won that Sorare Rivals game because I had 2 limited cards and 3 free. And it matches you against someone who you have the same amount of cards as. So I got matched against someone who also had 2 cards, but they didn't pick the right cards. I got the feeling they just had 2 cards and put them in and thought, yeah, I've got those cards. They might get double points or whatever. And I think that's a good strategy, because I don't think people think carefully enough about what cards they put in Rivals games. Because if you put a card in Rivals games, you're going to get matched against someone else with at least 1 card now in their lineup. If you just pick 6 of the free cards and don't use any of your cards, you get matched against someone else who hasn't used any cards. So my thinking is, if I start going in the Mexican League games, there's teams like yesterday, Pumas, Atlas. They're not crazy scoring teams. There's no player in either of those teams that are crazy scoring. However, I've picked up an Atlas guy, I've picked up a Pumas defender, because I think they're going to start scoring well. They're young players, they're scoring well. So I can effectively have the best players from all of the Mexican teams, maybe except for Monterrey, America, and Tigres, the big 3. So excluding the big 3, but even them, you can get most of the best players from those teams quite easily. You can get the best players from all the other Mexican teams for like £1, for like no more than £3. I've been picking up these guys for about between £1 to £3. And this is all in mind with playing the Mexican in the Contenders League and continuing to play Champion America while it exists. However, I've now realized they're so useful in Rivals as well, and they make Rivals way more fun for me, because if I've got the best 2 players from those teams, I feel like people playing in Rivals who are using cards in, say, Mexican games, they're not thinking it as carefully as me, and they're just putting any players that they find, or they're not putting anyone's in. So that's my Rivals new technique. My new Rivals strategy is to pick no cards, no limited cards in the big European games. So still keep playing them, because I kind of know about the leagues, I know the teams, and I've been picking up a few wins in like Bayern Munich games and Chelsea games and, Premier League games in general I do well in. But now I'm going for the Mexican League in more Rivals. And also, I live in Mexico. I'm a British person living in Mexico. So I've got the time zone where in the evenings, the Mexican games are on. So it's nice playing Rivals in the evenings, putting my Mexican cards in there. It's fun. It's enjoyable. So I'm going to keep buying Mexican cards, not just because of the roadmap changes, but because it's fun in Rivals. And, you know, I've not won anything in Rivals yet, but you get a 7% chance of winning a card. So it's not bad odds if I keep going for Rivals. And I'm going to see if I can get a bit more luck in the Mexican League in Rivals, as well as Champion America. So that's my sort of Rivals strategy going forward. I'm going to keep having fun with Rivals. I love the invites coming in, by the way. Keep sending them and keep sending them in on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. And follow me on Sorare. I think you can follow me on Sorare. My name's Amreezy. And challenge me on there. Let's have some Rivals fun. In terms of Sorare Pro, let's take a look at now how I did last week. So I haven't really done much midweek, but let's take a look at the week before, the weekend before, in what I believe was game week 449. This is how I did last weekend in game week 449. So it was the last week of Cap 240. I didn't do great. You can see here my 240 score was 234. This guy didn't play, and I've tried quickly looking up the news. I looked at why he didn't play. I haven't found out why. I've still got to look up why he didn't play because I kind of want to pick him for the weekend coming, but there's no clear reason as to why he wasn't picked. So I'm kind of hoping it was just a one-off where he didn't play and he'll be back in the team. But if he'd have played, he's been in good form lately. All he needed was 50, an average 50, and we would have hit the threshold. Unfortunately, we didn't. Not to mind. There is good news. Pablo Mari continues his good run of 60 plus scores. That's like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. Pablo Mari really delivering. The goalkeeper, Bilal, hasn't always been the most reliable goalkeeper lately. 68 for him is a very good score. Paulinho, not a great score for him. Not a great score, Paulinho. Work on that. And then Silla, again, I put him in because he had a good fixture, but he's just not delivering. He's playing 90 minutes every game, but they're just not creating chances as a team. They're not scoring that many goals as a team. I think they're also putting a striker alongside him now. I believe earlier in the season, Silla was the lone striker. Now I think they're putting a striker alongside him. Maybe he's losing points because of that. I don't know. Losing patience with Silla. The league that I did the best in was the 220. Not enough, though, for a reward. Robertson came back, which is very good. 65 score. Best they did well for me. But these two let me down. The captain. I captained Castro Montes because Union SG had a good game. I have Lapoussin, who's from Union SG, in my squad. You can see I didn't put Lapoussin anywhere in any of my teams. He scored twice. Lapoussin, the guy who hasn't done anything for like 10 weeks before, he decided to start playing well. So hopefully Lapoussin is now a valuable card and he can do well for me in the future. Hopefully it's a one-off week for Castro Montes. I don't know why he wasn't in the team. I'm going to stick with him though. He's a good card, good team. Let's see how they do. The Premier League specialist team did all right because my goalkeeper, but, you know, no prizes, nothing won, nothing that great. Awoniyi at Nottingham Forest is continuing to play 90 minutes, which is good for me. Chelsea players letting me down as usual. Badiashile doesn't seem to be Pochettino's boy anymore. Sterling didn't start, was on the bench. So with Sterling, I'm hoping that he comes back into the team because Madueke played instead of him in this game. And wasn't great. Made a mistake that led to the goal. Poch didn't look happy with him. So hopefully Sterling comes back in the team. Chelsea do have Man City at the weekend. So maybe he wants the big guns back for that. So that's how we did in the Premier League specialist. The academy team was just there to build XP. And then Champion America was exciting because it was Champion America. I'm entering Champion America for the first times now. I didn't do that great in terms of scores. I've got the Santos goalkeeper. So basically, Santos lost to Tigres. So I wasn't expecting much in my first Champion America game, my first Champion America lineup. However, Santos have sacked their manager. So they had a hard game against Tigres. So I didn't expect that much. Sordo is a young replacement for Brunetta, basically. So I bought him in the hopes that because Santos have a good scouting sort of process. They do get these good young players and then they sell them on to the likes of America and Tigres for big money. So their new boy that they've signed from Newell's old boy is Ramiro Sordo, who has got a slight knock, so he didn't play. He was 50-50 for the game. I'm not too worried about him going forward because he should be in the team's back. But I wasn't expecting much because even if he played, like I said, Santos were playing Tigres. It was the manager's last game. He was given the ultimatum, if you don't win against Tigres, which is a crazy ask, by the way, if you don't win, you're fired. So he lost 3-0, fired. Hopefully Santos' new manager does better, can get some momentum going because I've got a few Santos cards now. I've got Preciado, who should be back from injury in about a week. This Sordo kid, hopefully he does well. I've got the goalkeeper Acevedo, and I've got my eyes on a few of the defenders still. So the Santos boys are on my radar. If they can get a new manager and some momentum, we could do well in Challenge America. Then I've got this boy in defense, Alan Montes, who I really like. I've got the Atlas captain, Rocker. 51 points, not great. With him, you know, he's not going to be in my Champion America squads most weeks unless he has a really good fixture because he's the Atlas holding midfielder, and I think he'll only do well when they have a really good fixture, like they did a few weeks ago against Santos when they beat them, and he did really well. So he was in the team because at that time I only had six Mexican cards. Preciado was injured, so I had to play these 5 guys. I've now got some options in Mexico, so I can kind of pick the best cards. And I captained to the wrong player, Villapando. Big mistake. He's a good player, though. Experienced Mexican midfielder. Bad week. Hopefully he does well going forward. And then in the midweek, not really much to report. It's still going live at the moment, but I mean, I did put Laposine in my Cap 220. My Cap 220, I had 3 players that could have played. Exciting news as well. This guy, Kota Watanabe. Japanese leagues just started again. I won him as a reward at the end of the last Japanese season in Cap 270, I think. And he's just come through with 75 points. If he turns out to be a good player, then, you know, he's young, playing in the J League. And the J League going forward is going to be in the same league as the Mexican League. So I could easily have a team where if he's a good high-scoring Japanese midfielder now, I could have him in there with 4 Mexican cards. It's exciting. I quite like now. It took me a while to get used to how I'm going to feel about not playing in Challenge America and playing in Contender with all the other leagues. But I think, it's going to be fun. So he's exciting. Let's take a quick look now at some of the new cards that I've bought. So basically, I've sold, I think, a few cards that I've kind of realized Cap 240 is not really going to be a thing in August. So I want good young players from the Mexican League still. And I think my tactics is going to be Premier League target and possibly another European league, Bundesliga or La Liga. I've not decided yet. I'm still scouting the cards because the problem with Bundesliga and La Liga is I don't really want to spend loads of money in buying all the Bayern Munich cards or all the Real Madrid cards. And they're the ones that are going to get most of the podium places. So you've got to be a bit clever if you're not going to do that. And go for the Bundesliga players that are at the teams like Leverkusen, like Stuttgart, who are doing well and aren't as expensive as the Bayern Munich players. And maybe they're the picks I go for. So I'm still working out. I'm still scouting the Bundesliga and La Liga to see what my strategy in August is going to be. But for now, I know I want to keep playing in Mexico because it's cheap and fun. It's cheap, cheerful, and fun. So I want to keep playing there and I want to keep looking at Premier League bargains. That's what I'm in the market for. The last few cards I've picked up, this guy I got for 40p because he was at Chicago in the MLS. They've just released him and all the rumors are he's going to be going to Juarez in Mexico. And he's only 22, young, and Chicago paid 6 million for him. They signed him for 6 million 2 years ago. He got injured. It didn't really work out for him because he got injured for one season, struggled to get back into the team the second season. So they've released him, but I think there could be a player there. And for 40p, if he moves to Juarez soon as expected, they need a striker. Could be a match made in heaven. So happy with him. Nathan Silva is a good defender at Pumas. I traded 2 of my cards that were in Europe who aren't playing anymore. I think it was Lucchini at Bologna, defender that hasn't been in the starting lineup for a while. And Muleka, a striker at Besiktas, hasn't been in the starting lineup for like 8 weeks. So I got rid of those 2 cards, traded them for him. The other one I won in, I think, in an auction was Fulgencio, who is at Atlas. Tigres midfielder on loan at Atlas. again, I've been watching a few of the Mexican games. He's a kid that struck out for me. I was like, who's this guy? He's a winger, tricky, takes corners, good crossing on him. And he's a Tigres player on loan at Atlas. So if he has a good season this year at Atlas, he goes back to Tigres with some good experience. Could be a good pick. Brian Lozano is a player I remember from Santos. He was a really fun player at Santos. One of my favorite Santos players. Like, I think when he was fit playing for Santos, he was my favorite player at the time. He then got injured, moved back to South America. He's now back in Santos, but then Santos loaned him to Atlas. Now he's an Atlas player, but he's injured again. This is the problem with him. He does have a few injuries, but I picked him up for very cheap. And I think he was nominated for a Puskas Goal of the Award last year. So he's got that in him. When he's back fit playing for Atlas, Brian Lozano I like. I've picked a few Atlas players, by the way. I don't know if anyone knows, but Santos Laguna, my Mexican team, and Atlas have the same owner. So there's a good chance if I go for stacks from Santos and Atlas, there's going to be a lot of interchanging, because one of the great things about the Mexican League is players are just constantly moving from team to team. So you've really got to keep your eyes on who's moving where. So if I go for Atlas players and Santos players, chances are that's the same stack, because Santos players keep going to Atlas and Atlas players keep going to Santos. So Brian Lozano is an example of that. A Santos player now at Atlas. I hope when he's back from fitness he does good. Ramiro Sordo is the new Brunetta, hopefully. That's my hope for him. I picked up Daniel Munoz as well for £2.90. He's now at Crystal Palace, but was scoring so high when he was playing for Genk. And since he's arrived at Palace, he's been doing well. He didn't do well against Chelsea because they played bad, conceded 3 goals. But the game before that, he had a good score. And looking at his chart, you can see here, and I'm not going to click. Oh, I will click. Go on, I'll click for you. You can see here, 70, 60, 62, 72. There's a player there. There's an attacking wing back there. And I think Palace don't really have much competition there. So with Roy Hodgson expected to leave Palace, my thinking is if Palace get a good manager in who can kickstart their season, possibly maybe one for next season, if he continues this form at Palace, we could have a player there. So I took a gamble on getting Munoz. I've always seen him in the top L15 rankings and just thought, you know what, £2.90 is worth the gamble. And these are the Mexican cards that I picked up that I told you about in the last video. So I've got a nice little collection building in Mexico. You know, I've got a couple of cards now, a couple of options. Let's see how those options are going to hold me hold stead, whatever the phrase is. Let's see how those cards are going to do in this game week coming at the weekend. Right then, game week 451. These are my lineups that I'm thinking of playing for game week 451. There are 5 lineups here, but if we're being honest, the 270 is not really really punty. It's not really being taken seriously. So 4 leagues possibly being taken seriously, 2 of them or 3 of them probably seriously. We're going to start off with the league that I'm most excited about these days. That is Champion America, where I'm going to be going with Acevedo, the Santos goalkeeper in goal. They're playing Pumas away. Now, that's a bit of a tricky fixture. Pumas are a good team. However, Santos, new manager bounce possibly. It's a gamble, but I'm going for the Santos goalkeeper. I've not really got a choice in goal, but I'm going for him in goal, and I'm going to give Sordo another chance up front. Again, he's not fully confirmed to be playing, but this team's a bit of a punt anyway. So if he plays and Santos have a new manager bounce, I'm really hoping for goalkeeper to get some points and Sordo, my forward, to get some points. He doesn't actually play as a striker. He plays as a winger, but those are the forward cards that I like. The wingers that play are listed in Sorare as forwards. So I'm going to be going with those 2 from Santos. I'm going to be going with Alan Montes and giving him the captain's armband. He's got an away game, but a good game against Querétaro. They're not a great team. They're in the bottom few places. He's in good form. Alan Montes, I like him as a player. He's got an L15 of 58. Best L15 in the team. So Alan Montes is going to be captain. We're going to be sticking with Villapando, even though he didn't have a great game. The other option is Roca at Atlas. However, he's playing Leon, and Leon is a bit of a tricky game. And he's not done too well. It does seem with him, when I've looked at his previous scores, he does better against the teams that they're much better against. So I'm not going to be going with them. And also, Atlas do have a bit of a problem with their striker. They have a Santos player on loan. Once again, Santos players going to Atlas. Peanut butter and jelly, they go together, Atlas and Santos. So they've got a striker called Aguirre who came from Santos on loan at Atlas now, but he's injured. He got injured. He scored a goal against Santos, got injured while scoring a goal. He's one of the players I'm trying to buy, by the way, because when he's fit, Atlas basically need a striker. They got rid of Quinones to America in the summer. They brought in Aguirre, who should have been their poacher. That's the kind of player he is, a good poacher. They've got good creative midfielders, Atlas, but they don't have that guy to finish them. So I think the Atlas midfielders that I have, especially in tricky games, might not be the ones to go for now. Until Aguirre, I think he's going to be 1 or 2 weeks injured. When he's back, Atlas midfielders might be more appealing. But for now, he's not going to make the team. And then the extra player is Nathan Silva, who, look at his scores. Pumas defender playing against Santos. So I'm kind of covering. Hopefully the game's 0-0 and Sorare plays well and gets lots of attempted assists. So Silva, good player. Couple of peaks here, 78 and 81 2 games ago. Hopefully he can continue that kind of form. Let's see. That's my Champion America team. I'm not confident about winning anything with Champion America yet, because I'm still like, my best striker, Preciado, is injured. Very annoying. Sorado's in the team now. It should be Preciado, but he's injured. So I've not got my best striker. And also I'm still building this team. I'm still picking up a few cards here and there. I'm still working out where the gems are in the Mexican League. So for now, I think we're just building XP points and it's a bit of a punt. That'll be my Champion America team. Then the other focus is Cap 240. And I'm excited about this because Union SG are playing the bottom team in the league. So Lapucine is in the team this week. He's had a couple of good games. An 85, 58, okay. But they're playing the bottom of the league. They're top and they're playing the bottom of the league. So I'm really hoping Lapucine plays again, does well, and Castro Montes starts and does well. I still am debating if I should play Castro Montes. I'm going to read up a bit more about why he was dropped, if he's not in the first team anymore. If he's not, I've got other players I could swap him out for. If you look at my other leagues, there's good defenders like across the other teams that I could swap the play around with, basically. So if it seems like he's going to play, I've got my 2 Union SG players against the bottom of the league team. Bilal in goal. Never know what to expect with Bilal, but he's playing. It doesn't really matter if he's playing a tricky game because he had a tricky game last game and did well. He got a 65 here against Besiktas, which I wouldn't have expected. So not really sure with Bilal. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Where's it gone? 240, right. And then Calvert-Lewin up front because they're playing Crystal Palace. Now, I saw Chelsea beat Crystal Palace 3-1, and Crystal Palace are a mess at the moment. Until they get rid of Hodgson and get a new manager in, they're not going to be solid. They've got a lot of injuries, and Everton need the wins. So Calvert-Lewin, I'm hoping, it's a bit of a gamble. He's not really delivered that many points for me this season, but he's in the team because low L15 and a good fixture. And then best there, the opposite of Calvert-Lewin, high L15, not a good fixture. They're playing Leverkusen, high-flying top of the league Leverkusen. However, he's one of them players who I think he did really well against Dortmund and Bayern Munich this season. So when he has a good game, hard game, he still does well. So that's going to be my 240. I'm not overly confident about the 240. So this is new, this select your target. I can't see me getting 340 in this. Just because I've got a Union SG player that I don't know if he's going to start. Calvert-Lewin, who's always a gamble. Best there has a tricky fixture against top of the league team. So I'm going to play it safe and just go for 270. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I'm going for 220 because I've still got Andy Robertson with a low L15. Andy Robertson's L15 is 37, and that's not going to stay low long. He got a good score last game in the 60s. They've got Brentford, nice fixture for him. He's still got a low L15 at the moment, so he still makes this team because he can enable a few other big shots. Fulgencio, I did say Atlas have a tricky game this week. However, he's their main creative midfielder, so he's in the team. Okay, L15. From the games that I've seen of him, he's, like I said, Atlas are struggling because then they don't have a good striker at the moment. So he's struggling in terms of points because he's not. I've seen him make so many good crosses. He plays a lot of good through balls. He makes a lot of good dribbles, but he's putting it into the middle and there's not really anyone there. So I'm hoping that either they get lucky with the finishing or I just wait with him and wait till Aguirre's back and he's the guy to fire the goals in for them. So I'm going to be playing him because he's a threat. Awaniwi because he's playing West Ham at home. A bit of a gamble, but West Ham haven't looked great recently, so I'm hoping he can get at least a goal, maybe. And then captain will be Rashika from Besiktas. Maybe. Could be Awaniwi. I'm toying between captaining Awaniwi, Robertson, or Rashika. And saying it out loud, I think it's got to be Robertson. Rashika, though, is playing, I think, bottom of the team as well. Bottom of the table team as well. Possibly second to bottom, but a good fixture for him. The only doubt is he's not been scoring great points recently, so that's why I'm not going to captain him. Robertson has to be the captain. That's going to be the 220. And then there's a Premier League specialist team, which we're not taking too seriously, but I've thrown in Paulinho as captain. He's the best player in there. The rest of them are punts. The Crystal Palace defender Munoz, who I said has been scoring high, low, high, low. Let's see how that goes. Sean Longstaff, who basically is always in a Cap 220 team or a Premier League specialist team for me. I'm rotating between him and Norgard at Brentford. And recently, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, whichever player I haven't picked has scored and the other one doesn't score. So this week I'm going for Sean Longstaff because he's got Bournemouth at home, whereas Longstaff is playing Liverpool. So get ready for Norgard to score a hat-trick and Longstaff to get sent off. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Raheem Sterling. I don't want to talk about Chelsea. And then there's a 270 that I've just put in as a punt. That these players are... Oh, Soleil, by the way, coming back from injury. He is a player I'm excited about. He's coming back from injury. He's a good player for the best team in the league and always rumored to be leaving. So he came back from injury last game, got minutes under his belt. I'm hoping he kicks on now and I can start getting some points from him. Mangala, Nottingham Forest midfielder now at Lyon. Hoping for some points there, maybe. Again, very punty. Mesa Bar, I still need to research if he's fit, why he was dropped at the last game, and if he'll play. And then my favourite Italian defender, Pablo Mari. He's in this punt team because he's got AC Milan, I think, away. Even if it was home. Yeah, even if it's home. It's AC Milan. So, Pablo Mari, you're not going to make the big boy lineups this week, but you're going to be building your XP points. And you're in the punty 270 league. So, folks, that is how I'm lining up for the weekend coming. Good luck with your game week 451s. And I'll see you next week. Like and subscribe. Spread the love. Peace.